There's a plant growing across America that's been declared one of the worst weeds on the planet. Homeowners spend thousands trying to eradicate it. Property values drop when it's discovered nearby. And in some places, you can actually face legal consequences if you let it spread. But here's what they don't tell you. This same plant contains one of the most powerful anti-aging compounds known to science. It's been used in traditional medicine for over 2,000 years. It's packed with more resveratrol than red wine, and every spring it produces edible shoots that are more nutritious than most vegetables in your grocery store. So why are you being told to destroy it? Today, we're talking about Japanese knotweed. And by the end of this video, you're going to question everything you've been told about this so-called invasive menace. While America has been waging war on Japanese knotweed for decades, researchers and herbalists have been quietly studying what might be one of nature's most potent medicinal plants. First, resveratrol. You've probably heard about this compound in relation to red wine and longevity research. It's the molecule that sparked the French paradox discussion, where scientists tried to figure out why the French had lower rates of heart disease despite rich diets. Well, here's what most people don't know. The resveratrol supplements you see in health food stores, a huge number of them don't actually come from grapes or red wine. They come from Japanese knotweed, because this plant contains resveratrol concentrations that are off the charts compared to most other natural sources. We're talking about a compound that's been studied for its potential effects on cardiovascular health, inflammation response, and cellular aging. Research institutions worldwide have published hundreds of papers on resveratrol's properties. Universities from Harvard to the National Institutes of Health have conducted studies on this molecule. The concentrations in Japanese knotweed are so high that it's become the preferred source for extraction. It's more cost-effective, more sustainable, and yields higher amounts than trying to extract it from grape skins. Some studies have shown that Japanese knotweed can contain up to 100 times more resveratrol per gram than red wine. Think about that. 100 times more of the compound that health enthusiasts pay premium prices for in supplement form. But resveratrol is just one compound. Japanese knotweed also contains imodin, which has been studied for its antimicrobial properties. It contains polydatin, another stilbenoid compound that research suggests may have protective effects on the cardiovascular system. And it's loaded with antioxidants, the molecules that help combat oxidative stress in your cells. From a purely biochemical standpoint, this plant is a pharmacy, but that's just the beginning. In traditional Chinese medicine, Japanese knotweed isn't called an invasive weed. It's called Hu Zhang, which translates roughly to tiger stick, and it's been a cornerstone of Eastern medicine for more than 2 millennia. Chinese and Japanese physicians have used this plant for centuries to support cardiovascular function, promote healthy circulation, and address inflammatory conditions. It's been prescribed for respiratory issues, liver support, and detoxification protocols. Ancient medical texts describe Hu Zhang as a plant that moves blood and clears heat and toxins. In traditional diagnostic frameworks, this meant it was used for conditions involving stagnation, inflammation, and what modern medicine might call poor circulation or inflammatory responses. Historical records show that Hu Zhang was prescribed for ailments ranging from jaundice to joint pain, from coughs to skin conditions. Traditional practitioners would prepare it as a decoction, boiling the roots to extract the medicinal compounds, or sometimes as a powder mixed with other herbs. And here's what's remarkable. Modern research has actually started validating some of these traditional uses. Scientists have found that compounds in Japanese knotweed do indeed have measurable effects on blood flow markers. Studies have shown anti-inflammatory activity in lab settings. Researchers have documented antimicrobial properties that could explain why it was used for certain infections. This isn't just folklore. This is ancient empirical knowledge that's now being confirmed by modern scientific methods. Think about that for a moment. While the West has spent the last 100 years trying to exterminate this plant with herbicides and excavation equipment, Eastern medicine has been cultivating it, studying it, and using it to treat patients. Two completely opposite approaches to the exact same plant. In China and Japan, you can actually buy Hu Zhang in traditional medicine shops. It's not hidden or controversial, it's just another medicinal herb sitting on the shelf next to ginseng and ginger. Meanwhile, in America, suggesting that Japanese knotweed has value will get you some very strange looks. And here's what makes this even more fascinating. Japanese knotweed isn't just medicinal, it's actually food. Every spring, this plant produces young shoots that look remarkably similar to asparagus or bamboo shoots. And these shoots are completely edible. In fact, they're delicious. The taste is often compared to rhubarb, tart, tangy, with a pleasant sourness that works beautifully in both sweet and savory dishes. The texture, when cooked, is tender with a slight crunch, similar to celery or chard stems. Foragers across America and Europe have been harvesting these shoots for years. They use them in pies, where the tartness balances beautifully with sugar. They make jams and chutneys that have a unique flavor profile you won't find in commercial products. Some creative cooks use them in savory applications, stir-fries, soups, even pickles. In Japan, the plant is called iridori, and the shoots are sold in markets during spring. They're not marketed as survival food or some exotic foraged ingredient. They're just spring vegetables, treated the same way Americans treat asparagus or rhubarb. Korean cuisine also incorporates the shoots, often in side dishes or fermented preparations. There's a traditional Korean dish called dotori namul that uses young knotweed shoots blanched and seasoned with sesame oil and garlic. These aren't obscure preparations from desperate times. These are normal, everyday foods in cultures that never forgot the plant's value. And nutritionally, Japanese knotweed shoots are loaded with vitamin C. We're talking levels comparable to citrus fruits. They contain vitamin A, which is essential for vision and immune function. They're high in potassium, which supports cardiovascular health and proper muscle function. The shoots also contain zinc, which plays a role in immune response and wound healing. They have phosphorus for bone health. They provide manganese, which is involved in metabolism and antioxidant defense. From a nutritional standpoint, these shoots rival or exceed many of the vegetables you're buying at the supermarket. And unlike supermarket produce, they require no pesticides, no fertilizers, no irrigation, no fossil fuels for transport. They just grow abundantly, asking for nothing. Plus, they're free. They grow in vacant lots, along roadsides, near streams. They're one of the most sustainable wild foods available in North America. So we have a plant that's medicinal, edible, nutritious, free, and sustainable. Sounds pretty good, right? So why is the government telling you to destroy it? This is where things get complicated, because everything I just told you about Japanese knotweed is absolutely true. But there's another side to this story, and that side involves property damage, ecological disruption, and millions, possibly billions, of dollars in removal costs. Here's what happened. In the 1800s, during the Victorian era, Western botanists were obsessed with exotic plants. Wealthy landowners wanted gardens filled with specimens from faraway places. It was a status symbol, having plants from China, Japan, India, the Americas. So botanists traveled to Asia and brought Japanese knotweed back as an ornamental garden plant. It was marketed as the perfect decorative specimen. Beautiful, heart-shaped leaves, elegant stalks that resembled bamboo, delicate white flowers in late summer, fast-growing, which meant you could create privacy screens in a single season. Hardy, surviving brutal winters that killed more delicate plants. Gardeners loved it. Nurseries sold it. Estate owners planted it. And for a while, everything seemed perfect, until it escaped. Because Japanese knotweed doesn't just grow, it conquers. The plant's root system, technically called rhizomes, can spread up to 7 meters horizontally. That's nearly 23 feet. Underground, these rhizomes form a massive network that can penetrate 3 meters deep. And they're not delicate. These roots are powerful enough to push through concrete, asphalt, driveways, and even building foundations. There are documented cases of Japanese knotweed growing through the floors of houses, through sidewalks, through the gaps in retaining walls, It finds any weakness in man-made structures and exploits it. And here's what makes eradication so difficult. A single tiny fragment of root, no bigger than your fingernail, less than an inch long, can regenerate into a complete new plant. Which means if you try to dig it out yourself and leave even a small piece behind, you haven't solved the problem. You've potentially spread it. Mowing doesn't work. The plant just grows back. Pulling it up doesn't work because you can't get all the roots. Even professional-grade herbicides often require multiple applications over several years to fully eradicate an established infestation. Once it establishes itself, Japanese knotweed is nearly impossible to remove without spending serious money and time. And that's created a massive problem. Japanese knotweed has spread across much of the United States, particularly the Northeast, Pacific Northwest, and parts of the Midwest. It's taken over riverbanks where it can actually destabilize soil and contribute to erosion problems. It's colonized roadways and railway embankments. It's invaded abandoned properties and vacant lots. In natural ecosystems, it crowds out native plants so aggressively that it can reduce biodiversity. When Japanese knotweed takes over a stream bank, other plants that wildlife depends on disappear. The dense growth shades out everything else. Property owners have discovered it growing through their driveways, cracking foundations, and infiltrating drainage systems. Some have spent $5,000 for small infestations. Others have paid $10,000, $15,000, even $20,000 for extensive removal and multi-year treatment programs. In the United Kingdom, the situation became so severe that the problem transformed into a full-blown crisis. Mortgage lenders started requiring proof of eradication before approving home loans on properties with Japanese knotweed nearby. Some lenders won't touch affected properties at all. Property values in UK neighborhoods with known infestations have dropped by tens of thousands of pounds. Homeowners have been sued by neighbors for allowing it to spread. There have been legal battles over who's responsible for removal costs when the plant spreads from one property to another. The UK government estimates that controlling Japanese knotweed costs the country over £150 million annually. That's just for treatment and management, not counting the property devaluation and legal costs. So from an ecological and economic standpoint, Japanese knotweed is genuinely problematic. The damage is real. The costs are real. The frustration is completely understandable. But here's where the controversy gets interesting. Because we now have two completely contradictory narratives about the same plant. On one hand, a destructive invasive species that damages property and ecosystems. On the other hand, a medicinal and nutritional powerhouse that humans have been safely using for thousands of years. Both of these things are true simultaneously. And that creates a really uncomfortable question. Are we destroying something valuable because we made a mistake in how we introduced it? Think about it this way. Japanese knotweed isn't invasive in Japan. It's not destroying ecosystems in China or Korea. Why? Because it evolved there. It has natural predators, insects that feed on it, fungi that attack it, other plants that compete with it successfully. The ecosystem knows how to handle it because they evolved together over millions of years. We're the ones who took it out of its natural context, planted it in foreign soil where nothing keeps it in check, and then declared it a monster when it did exactly what successful plants do: spread and survive. In its native range, Japanese knotweed is just another plant, used for food, used for medicine, kept in balance by the natural environment. In many Asian countries, they're not trying to eradicate it. They're cultivating it, harvesting it, selling it. Meanwhile, in America and Europe, we're spending billions trying to eliminate a plant that could potentially be providing nutritional and medicinal benefits. It's like we created the problem, and now we're punishing the plant for it. And here's what really drives this point home. Remember that resveratrol I mentioned earlier? The compound that sparked massive interest in longevity research and the one that's found in extremely high concentrations in Japanese knotweed? The supplement industry has absolutely taken notice. Companies are now deliberately harvesting Japanese knotweed to extract resveratrol for pills and powders that sell for premium prices in health food stores. Walk into any vitamin shop or health food store and look at the resveratrol supplements. Read the label. Many of them will list Polygonum cuspidatum as the source. That's the scientific name for Japanese knotweed. So we have this completely bizarre situation where property owners are paying thousands of dollars to kill Japanese knotweed on their land, while supplement companies are paying to harvest and process the exact same plant, which they then sell back to consumers for $30, $40, $50 a bottle, to people who are trying to improve their health and increase their longevity. Does that make sense to anyone? We're simultaneously treating this plant as both a hazardous contaminant and a valuable medicinal resource. Depending on who you ask, Japanese knotweed is either an environmental crisis or a profitable cash crop. In some parts of the country, there are actually programs where foragers are paid to harvest Japanese knotweed for the supplement industry. The same plant that homeowners are spending thousands to eliminate is generating income for people who know how to process it. That's not a minor contradiction. That's a fundamental confusion about what this plant actually represents. Now, I want to be clear about something. I'm not saying we should just let Japanese knotweed grow everywhere unchecked. The ecological concerns are legitimate. The property damage is real and expensive. If it's threatening your home's foundation or taking over a nature preserve where it's crowding out endangered native species, yes, management is absolutely necessary. But maybe, just maybe, we need to reconsider our relationship with this plant, because there are places where Japanese knotweed could be viewed as a resource rather than a problem. Abandoned lots where nothing else grows. Brownfield sites contaminated with industrial waste. Disturbed land along highways where native plants struggle. Some forward-thinking communities are actually exploring controlled harvesting programs. Instead of spending tax dollars to poison the plant repeatedly, they're having local foragers harvest the young shoots for food in spring. This doesn't eradicate it, but it manages growth, provides nutrition to the community, and can even create small economic opportunities. The harvesting itself weakens the plant somewhat, slowing its spread without requiring herbicides. And the harvested shoots can be sold to restaurants, used in community kitchens, or distributed to food banks. There's also growing research into Japanese knotweed's potential for phytoremediation, using plants to clean contaminated soil. It grows on disturbed land that other plants won't touch, and studies have shown it can actually absorb certain heavy metals from the soil, concentrating them in its tissues. In other words, this invasive menace might actually be useful for cleaning up some of our environmental messes. Sites contaminated with arsenic, lead, or cadmium could potentially be remediated using Japanese knotweed, which would then be harvested and properly disposed of, taking the contaminants with it. Some researchers are even exploring whether controlled Japanese knotweed could be used to stabilize certain types of disturbed soil, particularly in areas where erosion is a problem but native plants struggle to establish. Japanese knotweed isn't simply villain or hero, it's just a survivor. While the West wages war on it, the East harvests it for medicine. While homeowners poison it, companies profit from it. Why destroy something before understanding its true value? If nature hid this much power in a worthless weed, what else are we missing? Maybe America's most hated plant is teaching us to work with nature, not against it.